Good morning, good evening, good lunchtime, whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome to sunny Edinburgh. And I'm just going live again for two purposes. So, this is the fourth time this week, and it's the fourth time in a 7-day challenge with Pat Flynn and Ecamm. That is one purpose of going live here. The second purpose is to talk about my new show, Talk IT, and let the guests and indeed attendees have a look at what they can expect to see when the show is up and running. So today, or earlier this week, let's recap first. Earlier this week, I talked about cameras, lighting, microphones, positioning of people on the screen, and a little bit of user engagement. A couple of those topics we'll come back to later in the week. Today, I wanted to talk about sharing screens and PowerPoints and Keynote and things like that. And to do that, what I'm just going to do is run through my normal sequence of events. So let's bring on my guests through my little animated overlay and take a good look at that overlay, because we'll have a little discussion about that a bit later on as well. So in come my guests, and I can immediately start doing things like bringing in comments live below. So I was talking to Claire yesterday and got her to drop a comment in, and we can bring those onto the screen in any shape or size that I want to, wherever I want to on the screen. So that is the very basic, but what if we suddenly want to start talking about sharing content? So first of all, I'm going to share a little bit of content with you which tells you a bit about my technical setup. So let myself shrink down and my guests move over, and we'll bring in my content. Now my content could be a PowerPoint or Keynote deck in Square, or it could be a little video like it is in this particular day. So I'm going to use my orange pointer to describe what my setup is technically. So what I have got is myself in Ecamm coming in to Zoom. So Zoom and Ecamm are connected together. Anybody who joins my session from Zoom will just look like a normal Zoom meeting. I say it'll look like a normal Zoom meeting. It will look exactly like what you're seeing today. It will be streaming in both wide format, so 16 by 9, and vertical 9 by 16, or at least it will be recording in vertical. I could stream in vertical, but I tend not to. I just like to record in vertical so that we can use that content later. I mentioned comments coming in. In order to get comments coming in from multiple platforms, I also go via another streaming tool called Restream, and that allows me to fire out to multiple channels. I could do that from Ecamm on its own, but there is a bit of a little anomaly, which means I can't see any incoming comments from LinkedIn if I just go via Ecamm. So the solution to that is go via Restream, which will bring in my comments for me from multiple platforms. And I can go to all these different platforms at once. So I could have multiple channels for my guests, YouTube channels or LinkedIn channels or their company pages, whatever I wanted to. And then all of their audience potentially gets to see the show at one time. So why am I talking about screen sharing and I'm showing a square screen share? Most people probably don't realize, but you can actually just change the canvas size in PowerPoint or in Keynote to be square and then utilize that. I think it looks a little bit different, and it allows me to get far more on the screen in the vertical format. So if I just come into my live demo mode, where you're going to see everything that's on my ultra wide screen, which is in Ecamm at the moment. So on the left hand side here we have the horizontal view, which is what most people are going to see in the live, but we'll also have a vertical view. So when I repurpose content afterwards, people are going to be able to see this content and view it on their phone and trim it to whatever clip they want to see very, very easily without having to go through any other tools to change the content. So if I come down and play my little video again, you'll be able to see that even in the vertical format, where you wouldn't think you'd get very much in, because I've got a square video rather than a horizontal version of the video, you can actually see a lot within that small space on your phone. People watch TV on their phone, they watch football on their phone, they do all sorts on their phone. You can get more on there than you may think that you can. So I've got my two guests and my square video or keynote presentation all showing in vertical and in horizontal at the same time, meaning repurposing becomes really easy. Let me come out of live demo mode again for the moment, and we'll go into a slightly different version of this. So in this particular case, I want to show you the difference between a square video and I suppose the normal 16:9 type of screen share that you might see. And this is going to serve a couple of purposes as well, just for fun. So this is a little keynote presentation that I've got coming in, and instead of the normal "can you see my screen, can you see my screen" and wondering what's going on, because it's Ecamm, I can place anything wherever I want on the screen. So I can have both my presentation on the screen and myself and my guests, so all on one screen. You never have to worry about it. In Zoom, it's just going to pin it, and in all of the other formats, it's just going to come out looking like this. So on LinkedIn or YouTube, it's going to look just like you're seeing at the moment, with a full keynote going on. So let's go up to keynote, and in fact I could escape from keynote, couldn't I, just to show you. Yes, it really is keynote going on, and all I'm doing is playing a keynote, and I could even just go through my slides using a clicker, so I could take you through my slides. And in this particular case, I happen to have done a little video for Veed where I was comparing different animation models for AI rendering tools. So Veed itself is an AI tool with a whole bunch of different rendering options in there, and I wanted to compare the different images to the videos. So the one that you've seen right at the beginning of the show is something I was working on and developing a little bit, so this is serving multiple purposes. It's letting you see that there is a slideshow going on. In fact, what I could do is very quickly flick you over into live demo mode again. Just so you can see what that looks like in both the horizontal and the vertical. So I would say that in the vertical version of this that we're looking at on the phone, that's still perfectly readable because I've kept my bullet points fairly concise. Now that's okay, but if I go to my next slide, which is over here, then what's going to happen here is I describe the actual prompt that I was using to create this particular animation. And the prompt, as you can see, is fairly long and detailed, so that is going to be a bit difficult for people to read on the phone. Now I could blow this up to full screen on the widescreen version, but on the vertical version it's still not going to look particularly good, so let's just do that anyway. So if I went to full screen, just so as people on the horizontal version can read things a bit more easily, the best I can really do in the vertical scene is what you're seeing there at the moment. So that is why I prefer to have a square version of that. So if you can imagine that that was square on the screen, then a lot more, the text would be a lot bigger on the screen, although that's far too much text to have on a single slide anyway. So good practice would be don't put that much text on a slide. But if you are going to do that, then perhaps think of doing it in square rather than just in horizontal, because that's what it's going to look like otherwise. So options, out of live demo mode again. So out of live demo mode and back into my normal widescreen mode, and I just was for fun going to take you through this presentation anyway, because I'm sure that a lot of people think that all of this AI stuff that I'm doing to create little animations just happens automatically and you don't have to do anything. You stick a prompt in and it all just works. So here is a couple of examples where it doesn't work quite so well. So same animation, not the same animation, that's for sure. Clearly that wasn't what I was looking for, but it's exactly the same prompt that I'm using with a different rendering tool. So in this case, WAN 2.2 rendering tool, a very low level of credits, to be honest, but clearly not what I was looking for. Another one, just for fun, was a tool, a rendering engine called Minimax Video 1.0.1. A lot more credits here. It said it's going to be giving me credit, a character and an animation. Well, it certainly did a character and an animation. It's just not the one I was necessarily looking for. So these animations that I'm doing have taken me quite a while to pull together. So don't think you're going to immediately jump into a tool and it's going to prompt, it is going to work instantaneously and give you what you want. It's taken me quite a long while to perfect these different prompts and get them to look like I want them to on the screen. However, that wasn't the purpose of this. The purpose of this was saying, can you see my screen? You shouldn't need to say that anymore, because utilizing something like Ecamm, you can have your deck on the screen at the same time as you are, and it all looks great. You could even, if you wanted to, overlay your image inside the deck and have the deck a bit bigger. The problem therein lies that a lot of people are told this is the deck you're going to use from marketing, and they're not allowed to change it, and inevitably your little avatar sitting over the top of the deck will get in the way of something at some point. So I would rather not do that and just leave the space nice and clean for whatever I want to put into it, and have me and my guests sitting to one side, and I think you'll agree that is still very, very readable, and it looks smart and clean and tidy. So very briefly, back to the animations again, because I've got one last animation, because this is really cheerio from sunny Edinburgh, and I will hopefully see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.